Hi guys, I'll tell you a little story about my purchase of Harbeth speakers. Perhaps this information will be useful to someone. So, after reading the forums and listening to the Harbeth speakers from my dealer, I decided to buy Harbeth SHL 5 Plus Anniversary. My dealer still had the last pair packed. After unpacking, I checked the speakers and noticed a glue stain on the cone of the radial driver. The seller assured me that such trifles are not worth paying attention to and it does not affect the sound in any way. I had no choice as this was the last pair of such speakers and I bought them. So my trials began. At home, during a more detailed inspection of the newly purchased Harbeth speakers, I noticed a number of defects in the radial driver. There were glue stains and scratches on the radial driver cone. The radial driver basket was poorly painted and had an uneven color. The edges of the radial driver basket were poorly processed, and the edge of the basket was like a bread knife. On the rubber suspension of the radial driver were dirty handprints of the assemblers. I wrote a letter to the Harbeth support. Harbeth replied to me that these defects do not affect the sound. They could not explain the reason for these defects. After a month of correspondence, Harbeth decided to send the drivers for replacement and take the drivers with the defect for examination. I was surprised by everything that was happening because there was not a single mention or review of such cases on the internet. Harbeth has a perfect reputation. A month later, the new drivers were delivered and the distributor installed them in my speakers. But that wasn't the end of my ordeal. After a couple of days on a newly installed radial driver, I found that the edge of the rubber suspension came loose from the radial driver basket. And on a more detailed inspection on another new driver, I again found a glue stain at the base of the driver cone. But this time the stain was smaller. I was incredibly upset. I again wrote a letter about the radial driver defects to the Harbeth support. A week later, I received a response from Harbeth that all questions will be solved by my distributor. But most importantly, this time Harbeth made no apologies for these defects. I contacted the distributor. The distributor glued the detached part of the rubber suspension of the radial driver. So in the first 3 months of use, Harbeth speakers have already been repaired twice. But it is impossible to repair glue stains, because instead of one driver with stains, Harbeth sent another driver with a stain. They are kidding me. It's funny that a brand new driver made in the Harbeth factory fell apart immediately after installation. I haven't noticed this with any driver that I know a lot about, because I also make DIY speakers. And I couldn't understand why I encountered such a large number of defects in Harbeth. After all, they have a perfect reputation on the internet. And I decided to look for at least some reviews similar to my experience. On the High Fidelity website, I found a review of Harbeth speakers in which one of the photos shows the same glue stain on the radial driver. And this stain is almost in the same place at the base of the radial driver cone. And it looks like a serial defect. But in the review itself, nothing was written about this stain, which is very strange. I've never seen such stains in any other driver from another company that makes loudspeakers. And I also find an interesting review on the audio review site. The review says, mid-bass driver unit was not well made. Quality control for these drivers seemed to have been neglected, as it looked dirty. Radial plastic had marks which had to have been the results of poor molding. Dude, you are just reading my mind. I'm not alone, turns out. I wasn't the only one who saw these scratches on the driver. You can see them for yourself in a good light. I realized that the scratches are a serial defect of the radial driver. Perhaps it has something to do with the shape for making these combs. And now the prices of the Harbeth XD series have increased significantly. With such a low quality of production of the Radial driver, the price increase for Harbeth looks simply ridiculous. Harbeth is not able to control the glue and scratch on the drivers, but the price raises. Why Harbeth doesn't show all these defects in its advertising photos? See how beautiful everything is on their advertising booklet. Look at the photos from the reviews. Everything is perfect. To find out how normal it is for Harbeth to have such defects on the Radial driver, I asked a question in Harbeth's Facebook group. All subscribers decided that these are gross defects and Harbeth should not change the drivers but send the loudspeakers for replacement. Paul, the group administrator, wrote a comment saying that this is normal. A couple of weeks later, Paul deleted my post and blocked me from his group. A few words about the sound. Well, I like the sound of Harbeth speakers. Their sound is timbre-rich, not annoying. I like the realistic reproduction of the human voice, but sometimes there is not enough drive and energy. But the quality of the Radial driver depresses me. I know that other companies make tweeters and boxes for Harbeth. I have no questions for these companies. The boxes are really quite attractive. Tweeters are well made. And only Radial driver is produced in the Harbeth factory itself. And only on the Radial driver I found defects. At the end, I'd like to ask a few rhetorical questions. First, how could Harbeth allow one customer to get drivers with defects twice in a row? Second, why doesn't Harbeth quality control see problems with glue stains on the driver's cone, scratches and poor finishing of the driver's basket? Even if it doesn't affect the sound, it's visible. And finally, why do the prices of Harbeth speakers continue to rise with such a low level of quality control? Just don't tell me that Harbeth has complicated, expensive boxes. I've been working on homemade loudspeakers. I know the prices for different boxes. Harbeth boxes are as simple as possible with the usual inexpensive veneer. I know what I'm talking about. I made the speaker boxes myself. In general, in my opinion, this quality is not the quality of the high-end level, but at the same time have the same high price at the high end. The speakers just aren't worth the money. Thanks for attention.